Country first, John McCain's campaign slogan, even after he put Sarah Palin first in line to become president if he could not serve. Country first. And yet in our fourth story tonight, at a time when economic confidence or lack thereof can be self-fulfilling prophecy, John McCain now says the sky is falling. Why now? Because now the sun has started to peek through the clouds in the sky. The GDP, gross domestic product, fell just 1% last quarter, lower than expectations, and slowing its fall, stabilized largely by the Obama stimulus plan, which fueled spending by local governments, letting them hire 12,000 workers and subsidizing capital projects. Ford today credited the Cash for Clunkers program for its first sales increase since 2007. Chrysler has lowered incentives and is low on inventory because it has sold so many cars. Car dealers are calling for the Senate to renew that Cash for Clunkers program, but one senator is threatening to filibuster to stop it. John McCain. And when asked whether or not Mr. Obama deserves credit for the good economic news, Mr. McCain tried to deflate any confidence consumers or Wall Street might have.
I think you could say that it is a short-term improvement in the economy, and I'll be glad to give him credit for that. But the question that I think we should be asking are the long-term consequences of this unprecedented debts and deficits. Are they beneficial to the country? And I think the answer is no.
Let's turn to Dan Gross, senior editor at Newsweek magazine. Thanks for your time tonight, Dan.
It's good to be here.
Why does Mr. McCain and the right, why do they worry so much about incurring this debt now when its purpose is, even if it's a failed idea, the idea is economic recovery? They themselves approved more than $1 trillion in tax cuts under Mr. Bush for rich people.
Well, a lot of this is in the realm of theology. In their worldview, government spending cannot stimulate the economy. Their RNC chairman Michael Steele had said that. Their politicians have said that over and over again. They think the only thing that works to stimulate the economy, aside from low interest rates, is tax cuts. So they went down on record opposing the stimulus package. Not a single Republican voted for it, and so they are heavily invested in its failure.
There are obviously differences about this Cash for Clunkers program and how much it is really goosing sales, but car sales are up. So if you're the McCain economic advisor, what's the strategy to be the guy who tries to block the Cash for Clunkers program when it seems to possibly be working?
You know, you pointed out in your intro to this that we've seen something out of Detroit almost as rare as a Detroit Lions win, and that is a year-over-year gain on sales. Ford sold more cars in July '09 than it did in July '08. Cash for Clunkers only kicked in the last week of it, so it had something to do with it. But, you know, all sorts of good things happen when a lot of cars are sold. There are huge retail sales. There are taxes that are paid. It draws down inventory, which means car factories may have to start actually making cars again and employing people. And of course, all sorts of bad things happen when they don't sell. And there's this sort of mentality, you know, if the Senate doesn't act quickly, tens of thousands of new cars might be sold. Run for the hills.
Now, I'm told by my producers that you made a football reference in there. If you know my body of work, I don't know anything about football, so we'll just let that one pass. But
well, you must know the Detroit Lions were they 0-16 last year?
Yeah, we actually wound up hiring their general manager for a while, but that's another story. Speaking of things seeming to go well or seeming not to go well, the premise of economic recovery, some percentage of it being psychological, that confidence will fuel spending, etc. How do Republicans run next year as country first if the primary economic message of this year is to yell, whatever you do, do not have confidence?
Well, this is the great challenge I think they've had. They put themselves on record in February saying the stimulus is a disaster, won't work, it can't work. It's just physically impossible for this to work. And then they're talking about health care and all these other things that are going to sabotage whatever very fragile recovery exists now. So they are basically rooting for failure. For them to be in a better position in October 2010 than they are now, lots of people have to be out of work, the stock market has to be down. Every piece of good economic data that comes out, whether it's the stock market rising to a level it hasn't been at in a year, whether it's the GDP maybe going into positive territory, is a refutation of their basic premise that these programs can't work. Or they have to concoct new reasons why the economy is growing in spite of everything that the Obama administration is doing.
Worth the postscript. Dan Gross of Newsweek, many thanks for that.
Thank you.